the most stirring of welcomes, ending what was great anticipation. At exactly 10 this morning, the 8th Māori monarch emerged to a thunderous reception. At 27 years old, she's a particularly young monarch.
Just so proud to be a witness to this.
It's a day of celebration and sadness as the new Queen sat next to her father's coffin.
Hey, Queenie! Hey, Queenie!
Te whakawahinga, the raising up ceremony, begins with the same Bible used for the first king in 1858.
What we've just witnessed was an incredible moment.
Then sacred oils, and Ngā Wai Honoi Te Pō is officially anointed.
Queen. Ngā Wai Honoi Te Pō.
Absorbing the moment, she sat where her grandmother once did as queen, now only the second woman to lead the kingitanga movement.
I've always looked at her and thought she was made for this. Koia tērā. Koia te kui. Ngā tāhua.
An outpouring of love.
You need a hug? Where's the car? You need a hug?
Thousands upon thousands.
If you didn't hear that clearly enough, the young boy beside him, probably son, do you need a hug? And she said yes. Lovely.
Gathered to get a glimpse of Te Queenie, Defence Force personnel in prime position with plenty of phones at the ready. Te Makau Ariki accompanying her husband on his final journey as their daughter followed behind, signalling hers would be a reign for the generations.
She was one of our main tutors for Kapahaka ex-Parekiro Rākau Manga, so she had quite a strong connection with our Hunga Taiahi.
I'm just so inspired by her grace and the dignity with which she holds herself with, and I'm keen to be led by her.
Ngā Wai Honoi Te Pō was head girl at Te Wharekura o Rākau Manga in Huntly. With a Masters of Arts from Waikato University, she's passionate about kapahaka, in recent years serving in governance roles representing the kingitanga.
It's certainly a big job, isn't it? Yep, sure is. And I think she's going to do really awesome. Oh, I think there's a new uprising for Māori.
An uprising with a new Queenie to lead the way.
There you go. That's the end of that story. Anything else you want to add to it, Chewie? I mean, that's basically, you said, for people who has more of a connection to it, there they are.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to focus too much on this because I've already mentioned Michael Laws and that sort of thing. I noticed the Herald also shut down their comments on the story because, of course, they did. Once again, the Herald's social media team shows more class, empathy, and conscience than the people that leave comments in the Herald stories.
Yeah, but I mean, hang on, just to be clear, the Herald has fostered that audience that would lead those comments that they now need to block. So let's not give them a congratulatory backslap without going, you are the festering comments. You have laid the manure for that to grow in New Zealand Herald News Talk. Michael Laws, Plunkett, all you people have happily and readily laid manure on the people so they could grow into the festering sores we have in front of us today.
This is very focused praise for purely the social media team of the New Zealand Herald. Nobody else. I see a lot of people online sort of commenting that they're learning about this, learning about why it's so important. It's on their radar now, and this is because the media did pick up the pace and explained a lot of this to people. I'm not professing to be an expert in the kingitanga movement or anything like that. Like a lot of people, I've been learning about it this week. And that, I think, is the cure to a lot of this ugliness that we're talking about. Is it's ignorance. We've spoken about whether it's willful ignorance or just unconscious ignorance, but it's education and learning about stuff and learning about something that is uniquely of this place. That's what makes it special.
Yeah.
And I don't have a connection to Māori culture any further than the fact that I was born and raised in this country. But I looked at that footage and I was like, yes, this is important. This is wonderful. And those emotions of like the image of her sitting there for the ceremony next to the casket that her father is in. And I'm just like, the maelstrom of feelings that must just be going through someone at that point is indescribable. Like it's a wow moment, and the weight of history that must be on your shoulders at that moment is phenomenal.
Yeah. It just reminds me as well, Chewy, and I do, kind of in a cheeky way, I do feel like you and I, on some level, have sort of been adopted by some Māori around us to be involved with what they do, like their wee South Island gingers, and it's lovely. It's lovely to be asked.
Before you finish,
Sure.
that, I just want to shout out that when I was up in Wellington, I went to a protest outside the local government conference up there, and a friend of mine and a friend of BHN was there with me, and I was referred to as her assigned Pakeha. And that's kind of what I feel like when I think about all our Māori listeners that are very generous, pointing out where we've got it right, where we've got it wrong, and just being very tolerant with us and that sort of thing. I feel, chat, that we are your assigned Pakeha. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, and I mean, on some level, like I was talking, not to get too philosophical about this whole thing, but on some level, what Chewy and I do is really unimportant. Like I was talking to someone the other day that works in a supermarket, and he was a little bit down about life and like about what they do. And I said, when the zombie apocalypse happens, what I do, what me and Chewy do, is not needed. When the zombie apocalypse happens, no one needs to know my thoughts and feelings on the latest policy of the government. But someone needs to be fed. So, I get that what we're doing on some level sort of means nothing. But then on another level, it creates community and we're building stuff around us. And the idea of getting to learn and know and be involved with and be welcomed into, and also to be able to represent from our perspective more of the Māori world. Now that sounds weird, but I'm saying from our perspective, meaning we get to open doors for the experts to come and talk, or we get to share our perspective of morons trying to just get on with life. I have a friend who used to work in kind of the world of parenting advice, and he used to always say, I'm just a beggar trying to show other beggars where to find bread. And I feel like that a lot. And I think about that a lot, because there's nothing that I'm Chewy, I don't mean to talk you down, but I feel like there's nothing that we do that's special. There's nothing about us that's special. We're just beggars trying to help other beggars find bread. And when we're talking about Māori issues, Māori in our lives and who are part of us and who have welcomed us in, they're actually the bakers of the bread. They're the ones who, they know the bread, they know the recipe. And we're just beggars trying to show other beggars where to find bread. And it just, I haven't thought more than, I've said this a couple of times on the show, but I feel like if you don't accept as a New Zealander that the Māori story is a part of your story, then you're not a New Zealander. Like I feel quite closely to me. I always joke, I'm Celtic. I'm so white. I'm pale blue. But yeah, and you're even whiter. But I feel quite close to the Māori story because I feel quite close to New Zealand, and the Māori story is an integral part of the New Zealand story. So if you're of this country, then it feels like, and I probably am the wrong person to say this because I'm not Māori to be able to offer this story to all of you. So I'll just tell you how I feel. I feel like the Māori story is a part of my story, even though I'm pale blue, because I'm of New Zealand and the Māori story is of New Zealand. And I feel like the people who say things like Māori aren't special and put up a post about it, they're revolting scum turds to scrape off the bottom of your shoe, but actually, maybe more importantly, is they're missing it. You're missing it. You're missing what it means to be a New Zealander, because there is only one thing really that's unique about this country, and that's the Māori culture. Really, that's the only thing. I mean, yeah, Australia, they play rugby. South Africa, they have, Christmas on the beach. There's all these things that we look to be New Zealand. The one that's really unique is this Māori culture. So if you're not a part of that, or if you don't want to have that as a part of your story, then you're not a good New Zealander, and you're missing out on possibly the best part of New Zealand. And so I actually found watching that quite emotional. And even though it's not, but I could feel it. I could feel the weight of it, even though I'm like, there's nothing in my blood that would connect me to that, but there is something in my story that would connect me to that. And so I feel it. I feel it on some level. Sorry, Chewy.
That was wonderful, Pat. I think this is why I fight so hard against these things that sort of downplay Māori as not being important or too difficult, or there are more important things to concentrate on and that sort of thing. People getting angry about signs, people getting angry about news presenters with moko, people getting angry about Te Tiriti or the treaty or that sort of thing, is that it is important because this is the only place that it is.
Yeah.
If Michael Laws is unhappy with Māori being special in New Zealand society because of the specialness of them being the first people here, because of the specialness of there being a written document between colonial powers and indigenous people, which, let's be fair, in the colonized world is unusual. It is, by its definition, special. Then Michael Laws is free, very much free, to go to any one of the hundreds of countries where Māori aren't. He can go back to England. He'd be one of God's chosen people. I don't care. Michael Laws doesn't matter because he is of the past.
Yeah. And
I think that's what scares these people, is that they realize that they are of the past and they completely lack the power and the character to do anything about it. All they can do is spit bile. And I don't stand with them. I won't stand with them. I know who I'll stand with.
Yeah.